Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. Well, this is part 2 of the E7. We're still on the exhaust port, and it's a lot better than stock. What we did, we took the bump out that was here. I call it a pollution bump. So, something that they did from the factory back in the day. So that's a hindrance, so we got rid of that. And also took the whole guide out, guys. Flattened it out. And so that port's a lot better, in my book, than that would be. So just removing the bump alone, without smoothing anything out, that's what you would have. And that's kind of ugly. And as I pointed out in the last video, you can see how the roof of the head, because remember it's upside down, the air would come out, hit this, and have tendency to curve back down right here. And I actually widened it here because from the factory, the port comes over a little bit over this way. It overlaps, so this is what you would have about on a factory head. So even if you were just to take this out and straighten this out and level the guide back, I mentioned that in the last video, that would be a pretty nice street performance port. But one thing I didn't mention is that these heads are going on a car that's also going to be getting nitrous on it down the road. So, excuse me guys, the things that I'm doing to these heads are a little above for that reason. And because otherwise it's going to be an all-motor car with a stock cam. This would be plenty. That would be a good port. And of course, I did move the wall back some here, so I don't know if you guys can tell, you can see a straighter run. And I just went over it a little bit, guys, because we're doing more of this. We're going to knock this back more, but that's down the road, different segment. But I'm just going to mention what we'll be doing there. And that gives you an idea how much wall that I already leveled out. That compared to that. And like I said, down the future segments, we'll be removing that. Not completely, but we'll be giving this a lot straighter run where the air don't have to hit this wall and move over this way. So that's what the concept is behind that. So what I did do, I took the gasket, and to make sure I don't go over the top too much, I put a safety line here on this port. And this is just a guideline to give me a visual not to go too far. So if you notice, from here to here, I've already raised that runner, that port. So what I'm after is I want to get the air to come out of that port on an angle. Not so much on an angle. I'm after to get it to come straight up as much as possible. And of course it can't, because there's not enough room Hold on, guys. There's not enough room for the air to really move freely. Even though I have a pretty nice port here, it still crashes down. It comes off the seat right into the roof, and this is without the guide and everything, so imagine with the guide there, like we talked about. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little bit more out of the roof here. So any guys that are out there that's already done a port like this, and you've gone this far, and you're just doing a nice cleanup, there's no need to go any further than what I'm about to show you. Because this is something that I do, and it's just one of them deals where I have my own theories on stuff, and I have an idea that that port being raised up more is going to help. So we're going to do that. I took the carbide bit out. Now I have a grinding stone on here, and it's not really long enough to do what I want it to do. So I have to put it in my drill here all the way at the end, and I'm hoping that it stays in enough to reach back as far as I need to go, because I want to level this all the way out to where the valve comes through. I don't know if you guys can see. So I want to level this out all the way back almost to the hole right here. I'm going to level this, and I'm going to try to angle this up, which would be down, upside down, but when the head's flipped over, this would angle up. So here we go, guys. It's nice to have the right equipment, fellas. So it's starting to level out pretty good. And if you notice, we're actually rounding these corners then at the top. That's what I'm after here. When you see me going back and forth with the big stone, I'm actually cutting and widening this corner. And that's to give it an oval type shape. And it's starting to come around. Now, like I said, you're not going to chase pretty. This is just a rough cut. And one thing I do want to stress to you guys that's never done this before, anything you're taking out here, always remember, when you start switching over and smoothing this out to your sanding rolls or whatever you use to smooth the port out after your rough cut, remember, you're going to lose more material. So don't get so carried away that you go and take too much metal out, and then you're trying to smooth it out, and then you wind up burning through. So I wanted to also stress that. So I'm hoping this picks up on the camera here, because you can definitely see. We'll go to this port. You can definitely see the difference. So that's kind of a better than nothing port as far as just evening things out a little bit. And like I said, you can make it prettier if you want. Cut the guide, like I keep stressing. Taper it in more. But this would be about what most people would just do for the street. And it's still a lot better than factory stuff. So if you try to go and take too much material to the back here, that's where you'll get in trouble. So that's why I'm only trying to go to the front of where the valve comes through. So I wanted to stress that a little bit. I don't think I covered that. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're porting these ports. Okay guys, I'm going to take a little bit more out. And another thing I didn't address was why another reason to use a stone is because if I was used a bit, it'd be catching so much into this hole right here. It's hard to smooth out across this where the stone will cover over top of that. And it doesn't grab, and it's actually smoothing the port out as it goes. So that's why I'm using the stone here. Now, a lot of people would think you're making this port bigger, and they'd be right. But what I'm doing more than making it bigger is getting the shape that I want. And I want this port to be how I want it to be. So if it winds up a little bigger than I would like it to be, that's okay. Because what I'm after is this. And I've said this probably 5 times, but this bothers me when a port comes out and empties to the top and then raises back up. So I want to show everybody what I'm doing here. Think, well, that port's big enough, and now he's getting carried away. Well, I have my reasons for doing stuff. And if nobody takes into consideration is this, remember, I have a set of heads that have some of the same characteristics as what I'm doing here on a car, on a stock 302 bottom end block with a cam. And most of you guys know that it's been 9 seconds. So on nitrous, 10 on motor. So if somebody wants to get on the forum and start correcting everything I'm doing, I won't be listening to that. So everybody has their ways of doing stuff. This is mine, and I'm not trying to show anybody to do this. This is just something that I'm taking you guys along the ride with when it comes to the extreme stuff. I really wasn't going to show this part where I start doing things the way I do it, but I'm explaining as I go. There's not anybody out there that has to do this, what I'm doing right here. This is something that I do now. The standard port that I showed you before I raised it up more would have been fine for an average guy. Just trying to go and make a little bit more power. And I should explain one more thing is another reason I don't want to dig too much back here while I'm doing the port, because you could go all the way up if I had something long enough to do that with, which I have an extension I could put on there, but that's not what I'm after. I'm going here, I'm making the port how I want from here on out, because then I'm going to be coming back in when we do the up around the seat area and into the bowl and cut back. I'm going to also be taking more out here, so that's why I'm letting this go right now. This is just going to be a process, so there's no quick fix here. And actually, even though this is all tapered in, we'll be going back over this again with a paper roll. And you can see where I cut a groove in here, and this is my line. So we'll be smoothing this out into the wall right here and tapering this in, because what I'm after, I leave the floor, which remember it's upside down, a little bit narrow. My theory is that helps push the air to the top and empty out into the header more directly. That's just something I do. Somebody might think that wouldn't work, and that's fine. This is just something I do and something I believe in. But like my mother always said, the proof is in the pudding. And I'm hoping the proof will be in these heads when we see them on the car. I do notice when I play this back and watch my segment back, it doesn't quite come out the way it really looks in person with the shadows and things like that. But this port is very meaty right here. All I'm really doing is leveling the port out and making it straight and having it have a nice run out on the roof, because it just has a lot of meat in it right here, and it allows me to be able to taper this in how I want. So I hope I'm explaining that okay. It's just me. It's not something that anybody else has to do. And if anybody uses a grinding stone like I'm using and does this technique, I don't know if it really shows up the way that I'm moving this back and forth. I'm actually going in a circular motion. It looks like I'm just going back and forth, but I'm actually moving around in a circular motion back and forth. I don't know if it picks up very well on the camera here. So one of the problems I'm having now, guys, I have to either show you guys something or nothing, because what's happening now, and I'm not trying to tell anybody my problems, my videos are taking 8 hours to upload, and they've slowed me down because they only give me so much time on my phone, and that's why I'm trying to do this in little segments. Otherwise I'd be covering more, but it's just very discouraging to know I can't go into more detail. I have to rush this when I'm doing it, and something that would usually take me an hour to do a pour, I gotta sit here and try to grind it in 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And keep that in mind when you watch this video, because I don't want somebody thinking, well, it takes me an hour to do a port, because it would take an hour to do a port. Watching what you're doing, stop and feeling it. I'm violating my rules here, guys. I'm just grinding more than I normally would, and I usually stop and feel more, but this is just for this segment, and just to give people an idea what I'm doing, how I do it, and then you can see the outcome of it. Now, I'm going to save a little bit of this line here. I don't need to go hog wild right now because I still have more tapering in to do. So I'm just going to the edge of the line that I made here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Remember, guys, I'm shooting over my phone here with the drill, so I'm not quite getting this how I want. This is just to give you guys an idea. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how I got my line here. And what I did, I used this gasket here. So I'm cutting this a little short. When we wind up tapering this all the way in, we're going to wind up with this port almost level with this gasket right here. And if you notice, that's quite a lot. So, and if you can see, this is where the port is. That's where the gasket is, because I don't know if it shows up too good here. But hold on a minute, fellas. I'm going to try to scribe a little mark here just to give you an idea as I bring this down. Now, of course, that's raising it up here, so that's not going to be a good comparison. But well, maybe you guys can see. We'll take it over here, more light. So I'm hoping you guys can see that